I can see why the pride and glory of this county is, of course, the people who call it home, but also the phenomenal offerings that we have right here that we're able to take in this moment. And we're joined by the namesake of Idema, Ms. Idema, who's joined us here today. We're glad to have her. And so Greg and Dan and Jason, thank you. Thank you for the tour earlier today. I saw those kayakers out there. I'm hoping they put on their sunscreen. When I went kayaking this weekend, I did not, and my shoulders are a little pink. But anyway, we are here today to discuss critical investment in our local parks and recreation that will help us as a state continue our economic jumpstart as we recover from the pandemic that turned all of our lives upside down. We know that our investments in parks and recreation make Michigan a more competitive and attractive destination for tourism, and it pays enormous dividends for our seasonal and rural economies. We also know that COVID disproportionately hit our tourism and hospitality sectors. And so that's why ensuring that communities like this have the resources and support they need to emerge successfully from this pandemic is so important. Our outdoor recreation sustains 126,000 jobs and generates $4.7 billion in wages and salaries statewide. Now, unfortunately, over the last decade, we have not invested in our parks and recreation spaces at the level we should have been. Parks are essential infrastructure, and accordingly, we should invest. Now, with federal funds from President Biden's American Rescue Plan, I'm proposing that we use $150 million so that we can invest and modernize Michigan's local parks and develop new local recreation opportunities. Right now, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make transformative investment in our outdoor spaces, and we ought to take it. The funds that we have could be used to make our parks more accessible. Could be used for playgrounds and pavilions and basketball courts and boardwalks across our state. We can also improve our regional trail systems, including the Joe Louis Greenway and Idema Explorers, Bridge to Bay, and Grand River Eagles Trail, Edges Trails. This investment will help communities who rely on tourism in nearby parks and local recreation opportunities for not just the residents who call Ottawa County home, but for all of those who travel to Ottawa County. And the $150 million that I'm proposing would be on top of the $250 million investment in state parks and recreation areas that I sketched out last month to begin tackling our backlog of state maintenance on state parks. So, parks bring us together. We saw through the pandemic how important it was to be able to get outside, to connect, to stay safe, to keep our sanity in insane moments, right? Our 10 million acres of public land are equally beloved by all Michiganders, regardless of geography or income or race or class or politics. Last November, Prop 1, which changed the Natural Resource Trust Fund formula to allow for more development of outdoor recreation opportunities on our public lands to ensure every community has access to outdoor spaces, it passed with over 80%. Yes. There aren't many things that are that beloved in this moment, and yet we know that our parks and recreation is. We understand that we've got a shared duty to protect and preserve our parks for future generations, and investments in parks and recreation uplift communities. And in times of need, it's a place of collective solace. COVID-19 has highlighted just how essential parks are to our physical and mental well-being. Although nearly every aspect of our lives was turned upside down, we saw a major uptick in park usage across 2020 across the state. Michiganders and folks from out of state came here for opportunities to enjoy the outdoors. We know that time spent in public spaces leads to more physical activity, better mental health, and less stress. Parks help us reset and recover from the stresses of our everyday lives and to connect with our loved ones. So after a pandemic that exacerbated and exposed so many underlying issues and put a strain on our collective mental health and physical well-being, we need our parks more than ever. And that's why this is so important. With the investment that we are proposing today, we can help Michiganders continue to enjoy the nearly 4,000 local parks and tens of thousands of miles of trails for generations to come. So this summer, I hope that you'll get many opportunities to enjoy the outdoors, whether it's at local offerings like this phenomenal one, or is at our beautiful state parks all across Michigan. Just make sure you don't forget your sunscreen, okay? And with that, I just simply want to thank you all for joining us today. This is Michigan at our finest, coming together around the things that really define who we are and what makes our life such high quality in this great state of Michigan. Thank you so much.
Governor.
All right, we're going to take a few questions. Go ahead, Eric.
Hi, Governor. Now, this is a proposal that the legislature is going to have to agree on. They aren't going to be around probably until August. What is the expected timeline, and with the backlog of the budget and then these supplementals that you've been proposing?
Well, while the phenomenal people who maintain and keep up our parks work 12 months out of the year, it'd be great if we could get a lot of work done yet this summer. And so I would welcome it if the legislature decided to come back to town to get a number of things in the budget accomplished, this being one of them, because I know that right now people are enjoying parks at the local parks and our state parks, and so it would be great if the legislature would get actually the whole budget done, but get this piece moving so that we can get to work on a lot of the potential projects that we would be able to complete with these dollars. Go ahead.
Governor, this is just one industry or entity of many that have been impacted by COVID-19. Obviously, today's announcement is a result of that as well. Do you anticipate having to make these continued investments in the months to come and possibly years after that for folks who are impacted by the pandemic?
Well, there's no question that COVID upended all of our lives, and every one of us carried some sort of a burden. For some, it was devastating loss of a loved one. For others, it was just struggling to keep a business afloat or keep food on the table. We have got a real economic comeback in the works. We are seeing our GDP growing faster than any other state in the region. Our unemployment numbers are lower. Fitch upgraded our credit rating in the middle of a pandemic. We've got over 62% of our population vaccinated, so we are doing a lot of great things to support this comeback. But it's going to take some time for us to, for instance, address all of the academic and social and mental health needs of our students as just one example of something that will not happen overnight. But it's going to take consistent, focused effort to make sure that we are successful. And that is one of the most important ways that we absolutely need to find common ground. So I'm really excited about being able to sign some of the funding for schools. I think that I'll be doing that in the coming days, if not hours. But we've got more work yet to do, and I look forward and will continue to seek partnership out of our legislature, because this can't be a partisan moment. This has to be all hands on deck to make sure that we have a robust economic rebound from what was a global setback for all.
Governor Whitmer, unfortunately, in the past week here in West Michigan, we've already had 2 fatal drownings. Not a positive subject to talk about, but obviously West Michigan, Lake Michigan is beautiful, can bring so many positives, but what do you want to remind people as they get back out, as we get back to normalcy, about staying safe, wearing your life jacket? Sunscreen for me is definitely a big thing, but not for everybody. But, what do you want to remind people about staying vigilant, staying safe on the water?
I think it's important that we all remember, right, that we've been eager to get outside, to reconnect, to enjoy this pure Michigan summer. But we also have to be very mindful of the inherent dangers of being around water, especially for people who don't have, supervision for young folks, especially. But I think we need to wear our life vests. We need to take care of one another, and I do think that it's important for people to remember that water is lovely and refreshing and a hallmark of Michigan, and yet we also have to be vigilant about staying safe when we're in it.
We can take a few more questions.
Governor Whitmer, on the topic of water, recently Republicans in the Senate introduced a plan to kind of use this federal funding for water infrastructure upgrades, things like replacing lead pipes, investing in groundwater studies, things like that. I was wondering if your office has had time to review it and whether you think that it's an appropriate measure to do with given some of the water issues we've had in Michigan recently.
So I know that the legislature has proposed some aspects of the Michigan Clean Water Plan that I introduced a couple years ago. I think it's long overdue. We do need to rebuild our infrastructure, and of course I'm thinking about the roads and bridges, but the pipes that are underneath the roads, that is critical infrastructure as well. We have seen historic flooding in our state just in the last couple of weeks. And when you have underinvestment of critical infrastructure and colliding with climate change, we're going to see more and more of these catastrophic moments. And that's why we need to rebuild our infrastructure in a way that is resilient, but also tackle climate change. We can't do one or the other. We have to do both, not just for today, but for generations to come. And we've got a lot of work to do. And that's why I've been pushing my clean water plan. And if the legislature has some version of it that they want to work with us and get to my desk, I'm eager to move forward on that subject.